Welcome to the Dublin European Law Institute podcast, and I'm very happy that today I have with me His Excellency, the Danish Ambassador to Ireland, Lars Thuesen. Mr. Thuesen is an experienced ambassador. He was a state secretary and a member of the Danish Foreign Service with expertise in international politics, political science, communications, and the European Union. He has a master's degree from the Aarhus University and from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. And he is an ambassador of Denmark to the Republic of Ireland since September 2022. Before that, he was ambassador of Denmark to the United Kingdom from 2017 till 2022, and to Spain and Andorra from 2009 to 2011. In the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Copenhagen, he was State Secretary for the Trade Council for 6 years and a member of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Senior Management. Thank you for coming to DCU today, Ambassador. Very happy to have you. And my first question to you is regarding the Danish Council Presidency. Currently, Denmark holds the Council Presidency of the European Union, and it is the first for Denmark since 2012. Arguably, the EU faced a very different geopolitical environment and different challenges back then. Could you maybe begin your talk by outlining the overarching vision that Copenhagen brought to this role in 2025 and what Denmark has already achieved in steering the EU's agenda during these 5 months of the presidency?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for your kind invitation. It's really a pleasure to be here. There's only a month to go of our presidency, and I think we have reached quite a lot, but still a lot of work to be done. You mentioned that it's a different world now compared to when we last held the presidency back in 2012, and you're absolutely right. When I look back at 2012, it was a completely different situation in Europe. I remember that we, in the ministry at that time, drew up a strategy for our cooperation with Russia, not just about trade and investment, but also political cooperation, for example, in the Arctic Council, and also in a lot of other areas. And we had regular meetings between the Danish government and the Russian government. I wouldn't say that we were close friends, but we were definitely partners at that time. And if we look to the West at that time towards our transatlantic relationship, that was also, how should I say it, in a different mood at that time. I remember during our presidency, we were negotiating the mandate for the European Union to enter into the TTIP agreement with the US, transatlantic trade and investment partnership, probably the biggest, potentially the biggest trade agreement in the history. We managed to negotiate a mandate in the council meeting in Luxembourg. It took almost 40 hours, but we managed to get a mandate. So it was a completely different environment at that time. But let's get back to 2025. And as you said, it's a different story nowadays. The geopolitical situation is completely different. Usually I say that there's so much unpredictability in the world now. In fact, more unpredictability than I have seen during my 40 years in international politics. So the circumstances, the framework for our presidency this time is completely different. I don't have to go into details about that. We all know the Russian aggression, the Russian war against Ukraine. We also know that we have a new president, a new administration in Washington. That has also had some significant effects. We have a trade agreement with the US, but it's a very unilateral trade agreement with tariffs of 15% on European products. We have also realized that we have to do more. We have to be able to defend ourselves in Europe. We used to rely on the security guarantee, but I think we're in a situation now where we simply have to take the responsibility ourselves. So it's a very, very different, it's a very, very challenging period, not just for the presidency, but for the EU as a whole. So coming to the priorities of the Danish presidency, our slogan is a strong Europe in a changing world. And then we have outlined two overarching priorities for our presidency. It's not really Danish priorities, it's priorities of the European Union. The first one, most important one, is defense and security. It's about being able to defend ourselves by 2030. But it's also about Ukraine. It's about mobilizing aid to Ukraine. It's about enlargement with the Ukraine in the European Union. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge priority as well. But it's within the overall headline of defense and security priority. Then we have a second priority, and that's the economy. That's the competitiveness of Europe. We know, if we didn't know, we could just read the Draghi report, that we are lagging behind. We are losing ground to the US, to China. If you just look at our GDP, the US GDP in 2000 were about 15% higher than the GDP of the EU. Mm-hmm. Now it's 30%. Mm-hmm. China is moving ahead. So we have to do something about our competitiveness as well. It's important because, I mean, in one way or another, we have to finance our societies, and we can see some huge challenges ahead of us. We have to invest in defense and security. We have an aging population. We have rising costs when it comes to pensions, health, and so on. And also we're going to invest a huge amount in security and defense. So we need to be competitive, a lot more competitive than we are today. So that's our priority number 2. And then you might see a Danish priority within that competitiveness as well, and that's the green transition, mm-hmm. because we think they go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Fossil fuels are not the future any longer. So we need to adjust. The industry needs to know what the goal is, how they should handle it. So the second priority is competitiveness, including the green transition. So that was our starting point 5 months ago. I think we have achieved quite a lot. We were very ambitious, and there are some risks when you are ambitious that you might not reach the goals. But if we look on the defense side, we managed to get 2 sanctions packets carried through against Russia. Mm-hmm. So that was good. We have also managed to move ahead on the European defense, a lot better finance, industrial programs. We're trying to coordinate the different capabilities of the member states. That's also moving ahead. Still a long way to go, but the goal is that we should be able to defend ourselves by 2030, and we're definitely moving in that direction with still a long way to go. Climate, I mentioned the green transition. We took a meeting of the climate minister, after that a meeting in the European Council, and then finally 24 hours of negotiations again between the climate minister. But we managed to get a 90% target in 2040, which was maybe not as ambitious as we would like to see it, but still we reached I mean, you have to get agreement between 27 countries, so you have to compromise. So that was another big result. We haven't finished yet. We still have some outstanding issues, especially when it comes to Ukraine. Ukraine has done its homework when it's come to the criteria for membership of the European Union. So we would like to open chapter 1 Cluster 1 hasn't been possible because one member state is against it, Hungary. We haven't stopped the negotiation. We're still going on in the technical area, but we haven't been able to formally open Cluster 1. So that's still an outstanding issue. We also have an outstanding issue when it comes to financial assistance to Ukraine. Everybody looking at the frozen Russian assets, but we haven't found a way to get our hands on them.
Thank you, Ambassador. I think you gave us really the 360 view of the Danish Council Presidency, and there are so many interesting files that have already been concluded, but that are also still ongoing. I would like to press you a little bit more on the first priority you mentioned, security, because we know and we have seen in the news that actually Denmark itself has been the target of hybrid attacks from potentially or most likely the Russian side. And maybe you can talk a little bit more about how Denmark wants to promote resilience within the EU and how Denmark handles those hybrid threats, and if there's any strategy also looking forward how the EU can aptly and robustly respond to those hybrid threats, which are getting more and more.
Yeah, we are definitely seeing more and more hybrid threats, not just in Denmark, but basically all over Northern Europe. I think you can say just a couple of days, there were also drone activities close to Dutch airports, for example. That's just one example. But the problem with hybrid threat is that they are so different in nature. So we see it in a lot of areas. We see issues when it comes to subsea cables. We see it when it comes to disinformation, misinformations, activities, suspicious activities during elections in member state. We also, we feel that very clearly in Denmark. We see, for example, GPS jamming of our commercial airlines in the Baltic Sea. We see Russian fighter jets getting very close to our airspace just to test our reaction and the speed of our reactions. So a lot of different activities going on. So there's not just one solution. First of all, it's up to each individual member state to take the necessary actions. But we also need to join forces depending on the area. One huge area, for example, is in the cyber area. There, I think we have some possibilities. In other areas, it's a lot more difficult, and we have to build up the capabilities. What we have done in Denmark is that we have established a new Ministry of Resilience and Preparedness. I mean, and it's more than symbolic. That's also where we have tried to join all our activities when it comes to hybrid warfare. So that's one concrete thing. We have also, there's also a lot going on in the European Union, but some of these activities are quite new. If we just go back 2 or 3 months, we didn't talk a lot about drones and the consequences for the function of our airports and so on. So there's still a long way to go, and I don't think it's a secret that there's a long way to go, and we also have to find out how do we counter these activities. Some of them can be countered with traditional means, for example, when we're talking about cyberspace. There's a lot of defense system against that. It's not just a question for governments, it's also a question for companies. We've seen Danish companies under huge attacks. I think we have made significant progress there. But also we have to see it in the light of the security and defense discussion as such, building up our common capabilities, and that will also target hybrid warfare.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And then I guess my third question would be regarding your second priority. You talked about competitiveness, and you said that this is one of the most important things right now for the European Union. We had the Draghi report, of course. We had also the Letta report, and you mentioned preparedness. So I had to think about the Niinisto report from the former Finnish Prime Minister. But if we talk about preparedness and talk about competitiveness, what do you think is now really the way Europe should go? Because we know that a lot of those laws that have been passed were actually quite controversial. And how has Denmark tried to build alliances between different groups, because we still want the center to hold and we want to have a strong European majority in this. So how does Denmark deal with these challenges in basically making Europe more competitive by still keeping the majority in the center?
Yeah, it's not easy at all. And it's not something that we'll be able to solve during the Danish presidency. We're doing our best. We are ambitious. We want to make progress. But it's so fundamental that we make some changes to the way we run our economies and the way we are regulating business in the European Union. Again, it's vital. I mean, people say, well, we are having a good time in Europe. We're enjoying life and we're enjoying our lifestyle and so on. But as I also said before, it's going to have major consequences for handling the challenges of the future. So we have to do something about it. And our focus has primarily been the simplification process. When you talk to business all over Europe, they think that we have gone way too far when it comes to the regulation and not least when it comes to reporting. So that has been one focus area, to simplify the regulations. It's not an easy task at all because the regulations are there for a reason. I mean, most of us voted in favor of these regulations because we thought there was a need for it. But we have to take a new look at it, as is clearly stated in the Draghi report. If not, we'll simply lose ground. So we've been working on simplification, the so-called omnibus packages in the EU. It's complicated also because we need to get the European Parliament on board, and it's not easy at all. But we have made some progress, and we'll keep on working for another month, and then we'll leave it to Cyprus and we'll leave it to Ireland. This is not an agenda which will go away. I think we are basically all member states. We agree on the diagnosis that there's simply something wrong that we have to change. We can just look at the figures and we can compare ourselves to the US. We can take a look at the startups in Europe. We have a lot of startups, but we can also see that when they want to scale up, when they are looking for investment, they move to Silicon Valley, they move to the US. It happens again and again. We have to do something about that. We can also see that in some of the strategic sectors, for example, artificial intelligence, that we are far behind. We'll probably never become independent of the big American tech companies, but we have to play our role. And so that's definitely another priority. Also, the whole capital market of the EU, we have to take a close look at that. In fact, if we look at the average savings of the citizens in the EU, we're doing extremely well. I mean, our savings per capita is a lot higher than in the US. The problem is that we put our money in a bank account while the Americans invest in companies. That's another example of some of the areas that we're working on. Innovation, startups, and scaling up the small ones. A lot of work to be done.
Well, I cannot more agree with you, but I think Denmark is in a very good position also to drive this agenda, with Copenhagen being a very young and digital city. So on a more personal note, Ambassador, What parallels do you see between maybe the Irish and the Danish experiences of EU membership, especially as smaller member states? And you joined together, actually, the European Union. Often those smaller member states are seen as a bridge between bigger member states. So can you affirm that vision? And are there any lessons you would like to pass on to Ireland as it assumes the Council presidency next year?
Yeah, well, as you said, we joined together back in 73, 1st of January 73, and we have been working very closely together since then. And in fact, nowadays, more than ever, we are working extremely closely with the Irish, also because we are so similar and we are very like-minded when it comes to a lot of issues. And also since Brexit, we have intensified the cooperation. And in fact, nowadays, Ireland is part of the Nordic-Baltic cooperation. There are meetings before meetings in the European Council where the Nordic-Baltic prime ministers usually get together and discuss the agenda, and we have simply included Ireland in that group. So that's a concrete example of the cooperation which is going on. We also, both of us are net contributor to the EU budget. So that also makes us like-minded. Doesn't mean that we don't think that the budget should be expanded, but of course it gives another perspective and another approach. So we are very similar. We have also some similar experiences. Both countries have experienced referendums where the population didn't vote in favor of treaty changes. And that's a little bit weird to think of today, because if you look at the opinion polls, the statistics, then the Irish and the Danes are the two peoples in the EU which are mostly in favor of EU membership. So we have traveled together in that sense.
That's very interesting. And finally, as we are coming towards the end of our talk today, if we look ahead to the end of Denmark's 6 months at the helm of the Council of the European Union, what would you personally regard as a successful outcome of the presidency? And is there anything you would hope to be solved or achieved before Denmark passes on the baton to Cyprus?
I mean, the overall success criteria is that the EU is stronger on the 1st of January than it was on the 1st of July. That's a very, very general success criteria as such, but I really mean it. I think if we look at all the challenges that we have talked about, there's only one solution, and that's not just a strong Europe, but also a stronger Europe. Personally, also because as we speak, there's a lot of negotiations going on when it comes to Ukraine, and finally, Europe is a part of that conversation, and Ukraine itself is a part of that conversation. I have no idea where it's going to end, but I mean, a success criteria, of course, would be that we are making progress in Ukraine. Personally, I would like to see us a part for some kind of peace process, which includes Ukraine and the Ukrainian positions and Europe. Also, that we find a solution on the Russian assets. From a legal point of view, it's not easy at all. We have been looking at different models. We're not there yet, but we still have 4 weeks to go. I would also like to see progress when it comes to the enlargement with Ukraine. Also there, we have tried different models, also different legal models. We haven't found the solution yet, as I said before. Hungary is blocking, and we need unanimity in the council. We would definitely like to move on, also because Ukraine has done its homework, and it should have a clear European perspective at this point. So that would be my personal success criteria. I'm not sure that we're going to make it, but that's where I stand.
Thank you. So I hope that some of your wish list will come to fruition during the Christmas time. With that, I would end our conversation today. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for coming to DCU, to the Dublin European Law Institute, to talk to us about the Danish Council presidency in such a crucial and interesting time. We are very happy to have you here, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.